Okay. Six parak, what is it?
Nun Hayam and base.
Nun ham base, six parak. Hakone son the deer. If a person gathered his sheep to the corral, and just to point out that usually if the Gemara would notice it, that we always talked about oxen till now. Now we talk about a sheep. So the Gemara is going to make a diak out of that. But so l'chorah would be no difference. An animal, he put his animals into his corral, and that's the place where it's supposed to be kept. But no, and he made a fitting lock. He closed it up in a good way. But we're going to see that it doesn't mean that it's excellent. It means that it's enough. It's a minimum kind of a shmira that normally it will be good enough. But yotzav vizika, but somehow it managed to get out, and it was mazik. So we're not talking. So we're talking about that. Okay, was it considered a good shmira that he watched it in a minimal way? That's how the Gemara is going to read the Mishnah. Potter, that's good enough because he did it in a minimal shmira is also good enough. Lo no but if he didn't even do that, so it's not much poshea that he didn't lock it in a minimal way even. So then he's high that it damaged. It wasn't called a good shmira. Next,
That isn't that that already wouldn't that be obvious?
That part would be obvious, right? The chiddush would be the resha that he did minimal is also good enough. But the second part that he didn't do it, he did a pshia legamri, then surely it's high, that's right. That would be pshita. So this seems to be a repeat that it says that it broke out at night. So it says pater. That's what the Mishnah said before, more or less, that he made a good shmira, but it broke out. So he's pater. So that part doesn't seem to be so much of a chiddush. Maybe the Gemara will see something over there also. And at night means that he didn't find out about it in the daytime. So even though it was got out, but he should find it. He should look for it, maybe. But at night, that he's not expected to know that it got it broke out, or that he can't find it at night. Says Potter. But so list him. Robbers came and opened up the gate. So Potter over here, Potter means not only that the owner is Potter, but the guy, the listing, the robbers are also Potter, even though they caused it to damage. It was locked, and they opened up the gate. So they're Potter even if it damaged. But here's the chiddush. What's your listing? Listing chayav. But the listing didn't just open up the gate. They also took out the animal. Then they're really responsible. They took out the animal either because they have now the chiyuv shmira, or maybe because they have kinyan geneva. Maybe they own it and they just have to pay for it. But once they took it out, they actually took out the animal. Then if the damage is their chayav.
About the listim archive, right? Is that what it means?
Listim, right? Listim, it's your listim chayav, and that's how you read it. It's your listim chayav. If the robbers took it out, so then the robbers are chayav to pay for the damage that sheep did. If the parzua listim, they just opened up the gate and then the sheep went out by itself. So then they're potter also. Not only is the owner potter, they're also potter. But if the listim took it out, then the listim are chayav. You also see it from the lashon rabbim also chayavin. He says, okay, to win maybe should have been good. Bava Kamma. He put it in a normal place to be watched, but it was sunny, and he knew that it gets sunny over there. And then the animals they don't tolerate the sun, and then they act more aggressive. Agitated, and therefore even a regular whatever is considered normally a good enough normal shmir pchusa, that's not good enough. And you put them in the sun, so then they're going to try to get out more than regular. And he gave it over to a cherishot to watch, and they cannot watch. They're not a responsible watchman. And even more, even if he had some kind of a minimal lock, shmir pchusa, but they mess it up also. Not only don't they watch, they also would tamper with the lock and open it up. So that's not considered good shmira, and the owner is responsible. So he put it in the sun, or he gave it over to a cherishot to watch, even with the shmir pchusa, and went out and it was damaged. Chayiv. The owner is chayiv because he didn't do a good shmira. Misara the roa, nichnas roa tachtav. This we had already a couple of pages ago. Over there, still about a shomer. He gave it over to a shomer chinam, shomer sochan, or sisacha socha. So here it says if he gave it over to a shepherd, the owner gave it over to a shepherd to take care of his sheep. So the shepherd is the shomer now. He's going to be either because he's hired or it's for free, whatever it is. He became the shomer. The same mission as before, that the shomer gets the responsibilities of its damaging. Of course, the shomer has to watch that it shouldn't get damaged. But the chiddush is that the shomer also has to watch that it shouldn't damage others. And he gets the responsibility if it does. Naftal Lagina Venenis. This could be a new Mishnah, but with the printer put it all together, so we'll continue. Naftal Lagina Venenis, Mishlemis Mashanenis. Even if the owner is potter because there was an onus. Naftalagina would be a case that it fell. It wasn't expected to fall. It was an onus that it fell in, and whatever the case would be, it could have kept it the same cases as the Resha. Whatever the case would have been, that it got out unexpectedly. How did the Mishnah say before? No, but the point is over here, what if it ate in a way that it benefited? That the owner now doesn't have to give it lunch. Every day it gives it $5 of fodder, and now that it ate, it's part of it being mazik. It's true, but it still has to pay the benefit, how much the owner benefited from its eating. This would be like Shane and Shane. By Karen and Regel, it doesn't benefit anything. But by Shane, if it ate food over there, it fell into a garden, and then if it fell into a garden, looks around, and it starts eating. And it's potter. The owner is potter because he didn't have to expect that it's going to get into the gina. So he's potter for any damage that it did. But he does pay for Masha and Ennis. So we had once upon a time, how do you pay? How do you calculate Masha and Ennis? So some say the May Omir, some say the May something Bazol, that how much you would have gotten away for a cheaper meal, and some say it's like the minimum. Some say
like what we said, if it eats $5 a day lunch,
yeah,
then he ate $200 worth of.
so he doesn't have to pay the $5. How much would have paid? And they talk about if it's a better lunch, it's more quality, so maybe he would have paid a little bit more. If he would have got if he would have how much he would have paid to get a more nutritious meal for the animal, and he got a good price for it. I think most spoke about before. How do you calculate mashanenis?
I'm just giving regarding your kids, you're not obligated for your kids damaging.
Right.
Do you have to pay mashanenis? My kid went and ate someone's pastrami sandwich at Moshe Shtei. So I saved myself from buying him lunch. So do I have to pay mashanenis?
You didn't say that. He's going to eat.
I don't know.
Rebbe, I didn't get the Roa case. The shepherd. What does it mean?
The shepherd you gave it over to a shepherd. You're the owner of the sheep, and you give it over to a shepherd. You hire a shepherd to take them to pasture.
My kid.
And so the halach is the shepherd is in place of the owner, and he has responsibility that it shouldn't damage. We know that a roa, like any kind of shomer, for sure is chayiv to watch that the animal shouldn't get damaged. They themselves shouldn't get damaged. But the Mishnah is saying that it's also chayiv that they shouldn't damage others, and if they do, they're going to eat in somebody else's field. So it's the roa's responsibility. The roa becomes a shomer, and he is in place of the owner. The shepherd comes in place of the owner.
Thank you.
Okay, now it fell into a gina that the owner didn't have to expect. So if it's mazik over there, it doesn't have to pay for the hezek. But Mishnah says nenis mishlemes masha nenis. We had a similar Mishnah before. Well, Shem Bishus Harabim was also potter. Any kind of case that you potter, but you still have to pay for the benefit that you have. And that's the question how you calculate that. And the Mishnah doesn't go into how you calculate. Machlokus over there. I don't know the answer about the person's child. I don't know. But if it went a normal way, and the owner should have expected that it could get into somebody else's gina and eat, so he should have, then it's chayiv. That's a regular shame bishus and izik that he has to pay. And now the Mishnah says, how do you calculate damage? So we spoke about this also once upon a time. So it seems to say that you don't just calculate, you don't reckon how much the food is worth, but you look at the field as a whole. How much is the field worth less than when it has a crop and when it has no crop? How much did the field get worth less? Not how much the food is, which we said that comes out a huge chiddush. If somebody broke 10 windows in somebody's building, so you say how much is the building worth less, and it's not going to be worth less, let's say. So you don't pay anything. So I forgot who said. Somebody said that if it's only to fix, maybe you said from the name of Chazanish. Avram said the name of the Chazanish that if it's only to fix, here the case is nothing to fix. He ate up the food, so there's nothing to fix. So then I calculate the field. How much the field is worth. But if it's only to fix, so that's how much the damage is. The damage is not how much is worth for sale. The damage is how much you have to fix. I have to pay and spend another $100 for each window. So that's how much it costs me. That's how much the damage is. If it's not only to fix, then you just look at the whole thing as a whole. I'm not saying
because the food is only to sell. I have in my field, I have wheat.
That's growing.
Yeah, but okay. I have food. I have 100 ton of food of wheat that I'm going to sell for $100,000, right? And so why is you damage me 100 ton of wheat? So why are you looking at the field? Maybe I just have a chiddush.
Why is that not a good answer?
What do you mean? Why is it grumman? You damaged my wheat. Why is it grumman? Yeah. Me, I'm just
And
thinking right now, maybe it's not Omer to sell. If it would be ready, Omer to sell. If
that's
it's
next to
ready.
Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon Omer. Ochel Pers Gemur Mishlemes Pers Gemur.
That's the answer. Also, maybe
It's not
that's
the
in
answer. It's
that
Rav Shimon.
place.
It's not, no, it's Machlokes. Machlokes. Tana Kama says that even if it's Pers Gemur, also you
So
don't
now
do it.
why?
So
Why do you look at it as a field?
So
Why do you look at it as a
Avram's taking Rav Shimon's opinion that if it's not yet fully grown, then what? Then
we
you call
consider it
it
as part of the field. We don't consider it as value on its own.
even
Because it's
though
not finished. No one's. I guess in those times you didn't sell commodities. You sold wheat when it was ready.
okay. So Rav Shimon says that once it's ready to go, even though it's still connected to the ground, you look at it as independent. You look at it already like it's already on the market, and you see how much it would be worth to sell. Only if it's still in the growth process, it hasn't ripened yet. It's not ready to cut. So then he also agrees to the Tanna Kamma that you reckon the field. And Tanna Kamma argues and holds even if it's pairs gemurim, also you look how much the field is worth less, not how much the pairs were worth. And it's going to be a sugya later on. I don't know. It's a couple of mishnayos together that the printer put it all together. But I don't know. It's good points. Everything's good. So we have a couple of mishnayos. Back to the beginning, the first word. The Mishnah said, Hakon is selling the deer, but no, but not the first word, the first sentence. That if
why can't you say that the field with grain is worth much more than the field without grain?
It is, but the pairs themselves are worth more. The pairs in the market is worth more than the difference between the field with the grain and the field without the grain. It's a big kula for the mazik.
Okay, but I mean, but he doesn't have the mazik is also mazik also he doesn't have to harvest it. So he's it's just so there's a thing of the field with the.
It's true, but it looks like in a regular case, a sheep came in and ate. So he ate a couple of, whatever it would be, a couple of grain, a couple of stalks, a couple of fruit, a couple of tomatoes. So it doesn't have the field didn't go down in value at all.
That's true. Okay.
So that's a big. The chorah is a big cooler for the mazik. The chorah is a cooler for the mazik, and the question is why should he have that cooler? Okay, Tanu Rabbanan. So the Mishnah said in the beginning that if you did a proper
I'll add in
closing.
You don't say he ruined the field. If you cut anyway, if I would become against the mazik, I would say I'm not obligating you to ruin my field. I'm obligating you for eating my food.
So you're asking the kasha. You're asking that's the kasha. Yeah. So we'll see. Bez Hashem, we'll see in a couple of days. So here it said that if it did a minimal, the Gemara sees it to be a minimal gardening. It's not the best. It's minimal. And that's where the Gemara starts now. It's a price at least. The price says openly. What's called karoi? What's called the fitting? Just Macharus and I were looking. Where's the word roy? What's the word roy? Is it in Tanakh any place? We always do this, Is it a word in Tanakh?
It's Gemara Lashon. It's Aramaic.
Is it a Gemara? That was a question. Is it a Tanakh word or not? So we found that it's a Tanakh word also. Ruyos los Islam. That in Megillah says there it says Veis Sheva Hana Ros Haruyos los Islam. So the word Ruyos is a Tanakh word. So we found the word that's Ra'ui. So here it's not the way we take it. We would say what's called the Shmira Karoi. If it's a good Shmira, but the Gemara says Shmira Karoi means a minimal. For some reason, we're supposed to understand that the Shmira Karoi means a minimal watching. What's called Roi? If it's able to stand in a regular wind, an expected regular wind. So we said a couple of times, we said it one time at least, that doesn't mean a wind only. The mechitza can stand with a wind, shkoyach, it has to you have to do better than that. You have to have that the sheep should be able to rub against it and nothing happens. If the wind is okay, but it's a very calm, a very calm place, but the sheep come and the animals come and they rub against it, it falls down. That's also called a ruach mitzuya. The ruach doesn't only mean a wind. It's only a mashal. When you talk about winds, it's a normal wind and a not normal wind, a hurricane. But it does mean whatever is expected. If it could stand under normal circumstances, whatever the case is. Here, talking about a wall. So it means that the animals don't push it down and it doesn't fall down. The chorus push it that it doesn't live up to the criteria of being a ruach mitzuya. That's because it can stand up with a wind. The point is not the wind. Okay, so it means that whatever's expected, it could stand up for that. That's good enough, and it's considered a minimal shmira pchusa. And now the Gemara goes on to the rest of the page. Who is the author of this Mishnah or this Brisa that holds that a shmira pchusa is good enough? The Gemara sees it as a chiddush. The truth is that we spoke about shmira pchusa, shmira mu'ula, but we spoke about it by Karen. Just to underline this, who's the thing about Mantana that holds a shmira pchusa? So we had about Karen. And we did a difference between Tam and Muad. Rav Meir says that Shmira Mu'ula for both. Even by Karen, both the tam and the muad have to have a shmir me'ula. Shmir pchus is not good enough. Rabbi Yehuda said for a tam you need a shmir me'ula, and for a muad a shmir pchus is good enough, which we said the Chor doesn't make sense. How could that be that a muad needs less shmira? And over there, the Pashup shot over there was like one of Amora said that thus means in the additional charge for the muad. For that, a shmir pchus is good enough. But of course, he's going to tzat must become Mohammedas. But somebody argued over there. I think we pass like the one who argues that for some reason the muad is enough to have a shmir pchus. I don't understand the logic. So that's what we had already be there. That was Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says again. Rabbi Meir says that both of them, tam and muad, the shmir me'ula. You have to do a good shmir. And Rabbi Yehuda says that by a tam you need a shmir me'ula, by a muad the shmir pchusa. And over there, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov was a third sheet that says the shmir pchusa is good for both of them. Amisha says that here the shmir pchusa is good enough. So the Gemara says it's not Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, this is the first teretz. The first teretz the Gemara says, Rabbi Mani B'Chatish said that Rabbi Yehuda, that the Mishnah only fits according to Rabbi Yehuda. That not Kasher. This is the Mishnah we had by Mem Hey talking about Karen. Kasher Bala Ben Mosei Ben all the fun of Karoi V'Yotzev V'Hizik Echatam V'Echad Mu of Chayiv Div Rabbi Meir. Over there, the owner tied it with a Mosei, some kind of a strap, a rein, and he locked it up minimally, and the animal went out and it was mazik with Karen. So the Tana Kamma holds, but Meir holds that Tam and the Muad both of them is high because the Shmir Pchusa is not good enough. So that the Gemara understands doesn't fit with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that Shmir Pchusa is good enough. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tam Chai Muad Pater. Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Tam is high because you need a Shmir Me'ula, but a Muad, Karen Muad, is Pater because the Shmir Pchusa is good enough. And the Gemara is comparing our Mishnah to the Muad. Shenema. This is going to be the drasha. The Mishnah says the drasha of Rabbi Yehuda. The more over there discusses where Meir gets it from. That it says that it's only chayv for the muad because the owner didn't watch it. Mashma, even any kind of minimal washing is good enough. He's only chayv if he didn't wash it at all. So if he washed it minimally, it's good enough. This one who's if he did a shmir pchusa is good enough. So Rabbi Yehuda tells that a shmir pchusa by muad is good enough. Rabbi Lezer Omer, this I forgot to mention. Rabbi Lezer says the Chayr Pashup shot that there's no way to wash it, even a shmir mul is not good enough. The only way to wash it is to kill it, take it to the shlachtais, and over there make meat out of it because you can't wash a muad at all. And we had over there a fourth sheet which says Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov in the Brisa that says that shmir pchusa is good for both of them. But the Gemara wants that in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Lezer, it's only Rabbi Yehuda because our Mishnah says that a shmir pchusa is good enough. The Gemara answers that was until now was one side to say. And of course, you get one Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov also, but of the Mishnah, 3 opinions, it's only Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara answers, I feel Rabbi Meir. So Meir will agree to our Mishnah that the Shmir Pchus is good enough. I feel Rabbi Meir because Shani Shein V'Regel means we didn't really talk about Shein V'Regel yet. It's Shein V'Regel is always a muad, but it's the difference between Karen and Shein V'Regel. We only spoke about Karen, and over there, Rabbi Meir said you have to have a Shmir Me'ula. But now the Gemara is going to say he also agrees that Shein V'Regel is a good enough Shmir Pchusa, and there's going to be drushes about that. And here it goes: Shani Shein V'Regel that Torah miyata b'shmirasan. Shein V'Regel is different because the Torah says that the minimal shmir is good enough. The Torah minimized its chiyuv shmira, even a minimal shmir is good enough for Shein V'Regel. Dam Rabbi Lozav Amila b'Masisa Tana. Either Rabbi Lozav or Brisa. Therefore, mazikim that the Torah says that a minimal shmir is good enough. Karen is different. Karen has to have a shmir mula, but these 4 bor. What do you have in the Mishnah? Shor bor ma've hever. Okay, we have to finish.
I didn't get it. Our Mishnah talking about Shein V'Regel.
So the Gemara is going to be medayik. The Mishnah don't watch Shein V'Regel.
The Mishnah.
The Gemara is going to say right away because it says son, and the Gemara is going to say soon that the word son don't do Karen. So
it says Zika.
Okay, I was a mazik. It can be mazik with Shein V'Regel. Doesn't have to be called mazik. So here even Rabbi Meir is going to agree that Shmir Pchusa is good enough, and we're going to bring psukim for each one of these. Bor Eish Shein V'Regel that it's good enough for Shmir Pchusa. Bor. Where do you see that the Torah says that for bor it's good enough to have a Shmir Pchusa? The Siv Kiftach Ish Bor O Kiyech Ish Bor Lo Yechasenu. That's a pasuk that if somebody opens up a bor. Opens up meat that was already dug, but it was covered, and he opened it up, and he didn't close it. He didn't cover it, or he dug the bor. There was no bor at all, and he dug it, and he didn't cover it up. Mashma hakiso pater. If he did cover it up, it's good enough. So Rashi says, if it's dug already, it was a covered bor, and he uncovered it, and then he covered it again, then he kiftach his bor v'lo yichasenu. That's not called the shmir pchusa because he did whatever it was. It means if I only would have said ki yiftach his bor v'lo yichasenu, they wouldn't have a right that a shmir pchusa is good enough, maybe. But if it says ki yichresh bor v'lo yichaslenu, that means that even if he dug the bor and he didn't cover it, he's high. But if he would have covered it, it would have been pater. He dug a bor and he covered it. Of course, a filled up bor is better than a covered bor because, as you see at the end, he fell in. If he would have fallen, even sometimes you have a case that even had a cover, somehow it fell in. And when it's filled up, surely it can't fall in. So a covered bor is only called a shmir prusa. That's we could say such a, maybe the other Taisa talks about some details, but in general that would be the Gemara that covering a bar is only considered a shmir prusa. It's always considered a shmir prusa in relation to a filled up bar that there's no bar at all. So it's considered a shmir prusa and it's good enough. So that's the raya that bar is part with a shmir prusa. Eish, how do you know that eish is enough good enough to have a shmir prusa? The pasuk says that when someone makes a fire, so the one who made the fire has to pay. And it calls him Hamavir Sabeira, the one who ignited the fire, the one who made the fire. The mashmois of it is, it doesn't say like the owner of the fire, it says the one who made the fire. That sounds like he made it very dangerous. David Kain Mavir is chayiv only if he makes it ready to go, that it's already a burning fire. But if it would have been a fire which is a bit contained, then it's mashma, he wouldn't be chayiv. And that's the place where the Torah says that Eish is only chayiv if he didn't do a shmir pchus even. Even the shmir pchus is good enough for Eish also. And now to our subject, Shane. How do you know that Shane is only chayiv if he didn't even do a shmir pchus? Shmir pchus is enough. That's the talking the pasuk of Shane. So it talks about Shane by saying biyer b'stei acher. Adavid keinu biyer. That again, that he has to make it a beer. The word of beer, question what it means. Rashi, I think in Chumash says that it means the animal. He acted as an animal in the other person's field. Maybe beer means to clean out, the lashon of consuming. So that's only if he made the animal to be a beer. That's also a lashon that he made him into an eater. He did it. He did an active act. But if it would have been a shmir pchus, that's good enough. And regel also shmir pchus is good enough. He sent. He let the animal go. Only if he sent it, that he sent it out. That means that he didn't even do a shmir pchusa. The Tanya, how do you know it's talking? The shilach is talking about the Tanya. Well, this is really, you don't need it so much. You knew the whole time that the shilach has biro is regel from that gimel. The shilach has regel b'chein uomer mishalach regel lashov v'chamor ubiyah zeh b'chein uomer kasher v'agol latumo. Time of David kain the shilach ubiyah v'lo lo. That's all the drasha. It's I'll just put in parentheses because we noticed this was a given the whole time. That Vishilach is referring to regel, as the pasuk says, with the word mishalchin, it talks about regel, and the word of beer is talking about shein. Another pasuk where the word beer means something similar. That was a question over there. What do you see in this pasuk over there? Galo, does that mean teeth? That was the excrement. Then it makes the thing which consumes it and makes that digests it. That was a question at the beginning of the Masechta. How do you see in this pasuk that it means shein? But this was the point where we learned out that the shilach is regel and a beer is shein, and the pasuk says that if he did keinu beer, keinu shilach. Time of David kein v'shilach or beer. Hello, Avid lo. If he didn't make it ready to go, ready to be mazik, so he's not chayiv, and that's the source that shmir pchus is good enough. Amar Rabba, this is what I just spoke out as we talked, that the Mishnah says tzon, doesn't say ashore, because that makes it more obvious. We're talking about shein for regel, we're not talking about keren. For keren, it'd be machlokes. Keren Rabbi wouldn't agree, say that shmir pchus is not good enough. But since talking about shein for regel, so that shmir pchus is good enough. Amar Rabba, the Mishnah is also doing that's talking about shein for regel. The tanit tzon, it says a sheep. Why not talk about an ox like we talked about the homeless after so far? Mechli v'shor koskin and vasi. The whole time we've been talking about an ox. Nisni shor, ma'ishno diktanit tzon. Let it say ox, like you said till now. That's all the shosh nagel dalibhei, shosh nagel chesapara. Talk about a shor. La vishum da tormiyah da bishmi vasan. So if you want to, you can take out the next couple of lines because the girsa seems to be repetitive or a little bit difficult. You can stop right there. Or shmamina, like this, but like here, take this shmamina. That would be a good guess also. That's finished. We finished already. That la vishum da tormiyah bishmi vasan shmamina. There's another guess over here which says the same thing. Lav mishum, some say the kan, some say the tzon. The tzon, karen lo ksivaba, shen v'regel hu the ksive. The kamash v'lan, the shen v'regel, the warden who We're talking about Shein V'Regel. The word Muadin doesn't fit so well. The point is to say we're talking about Shein V'Regel. We're not talking about Karen. So this is the Gemara's diak that since it says in the Mishnah Akon is Son there, that doesn't say Shor. It's talking about the kind of hezek that its Son does, and not the way a Shor does. A Shor does Karen Shein V'Regel. It does all three, Karen also, but a sheep doesn't do Karen. The sheep does not destructive animal. It only destroys by walking on things and by eating it, but not by no horns, and it's not so aggressive. So that's why the Mishnah chose to talk about someone, because it's talking about Shein V'Regel, and over there Shmir P'chusas Chaya is enough of a Shmir, even according to Rav Meir. To sum it all up, the Mishnah says Shmir P'chusas is good enough. As far as Karen goes, and this isn't so simple. Rav Meir holds that Shmir P'chusas is not enough. But our Mishnah is talking about Shein V'Regel. It says someone, like it's mashma, talking about sheep that are not Karen, is only Shein V'Regel, and over there even Rav Meir agrees that Shmir P'chusas is good enough. Agav, we learned also that Bor and Eish, also Shmir P'chusas is good enough. So it comes out that only Karen, Tam, or Karen Wood, according to Chokis, and we pass like Rabbi Yehuda, that Karen Tam, you have to have a Shmir Ma'ula. And a Shmir P'chusas is not good enough. Otherwise, by other Mazikim, even the Shmir P'chusas is good enough. Next Gemara, Tanya. To this sugya, very interesting. The rest of the day, come out. I think the rest of the day today. I got the wrong one. I'm sorry. So we're going to talk about Groma. And Lev Yaakov had this question a long time ago, and maybe we'll get some clarity today. Groma ben Zakan is potter. So if you don't only chayiv if you do direct, but if you do indirect, say potter. But there's going to be a famous din that chayiv b'din shemayim, even though Bezdin doesn't make you chayiv, but it's chayiv b'din shemayim. That's the rest of the Gemara now. Tanya, Amar B'Shua Abor Dvar B'Oisa Osin Potter b'din Adam v'chayiv b'din shemayim. Ve'eluhein ha'poretz geder b'fnei v'emas chavero v'akofev kol masa shel chaver b'fnei adleika. I'll translate everything. And asocher eides sheker lahoyed and ayodea eides. There are four cases. These are all examples, and the Gemara is going to talk about why he picked these examples. The Chor could have said one yesod that Groma ben Zakan is pater. That if somebody only indirectly caused the damage, so he's pater. But now he's only pater b'dinei Adam. Only Bezdin doesn't charge him. But in dinei Shemaim, he is responsible. Says just read it inside. Rabbi Yeshua said there are four things that if someone does it, he's pater b'dinei Adam, mean Bezdin. In the earthly court, they don't charge him, but he's chayiv in the heavenly court. When he comes to heaven, they're going to say that you're chayiv, you damage somebody. They're all going to be examples of Groma. So it just needs to be a few examples. It could be many examples of Groma. One example is our Mishnah, Hago together b'fnei ben Meschavero, Haporitz together b'fnei ben Meschavero. Somebody breached somebody else's fence. A man, like it says here, the Patzua listed, and they were maz, and they got damaged. So it's not Mamish Ahai. This isn't Mamish our Mishnah. Haporitz together. It's not exactly our Mishnah. Interesting. So there was a fence. A man had an animal inside the fence, and somebody came and broke the fence, and the animal went out and got lost. He lost his animal. And he says, "You took my animal. I didn't take it. I just opened up the fence and it walked out." That's called a groma. He didn't directly do it. If he stole it, he took it. Then he's a ganav. But he didn't. He just opened up the gate, and the animal went lost. So the owner says, "You took my animal." He says, "I didn't. I just caused it indirectly." So he's pater. But he's pater b'dinei Adam chai b'dinei shemayim. That's the yesod of groma. And another case, there was a fire, and the fire would not have caught onto the wheat. Reuven's fire and Shimon's wheat. Levi comes and takes Shimon's wheat, and he bends it in a way that it should be in the path of the fire. So he caused that it should get burned. So he didn't burn it, and it wasn't his fire, but he caused that it should catch on fire. That's also called another example of a grama, and he's patem b'dinei Adam, but it's chai b'dinei shemayim. A third case, it always seems to be cases. This one, I'm not sure what Moshe is going to say. I always look at you as for like, well, what would we say? Like, what would we say before halacha? Somebody hired false witnesses, and they've testified falsely, and they caused somebody a big loss. Then we find out now the socher, the one who did it, is he chayiv to pay for the loss? He didn't testify. They didn't testify. Here it says that the one who hired them is only called a groma. The one who testified, what's that? That surely the Avera, the ones who testified, they're not allowed to testify just because they got money for Shona. So they testified falsely, but they're the ones who caused the damage. They're maybe called directly. That's called they directly caused the damage if they testified falsely. It's not called a groma. But the one who hired them is only called a groma. Passes?
But in American law, the guy that hires people to kill, he goes to jail.
Conspiracy.
And
I mean, this is all the money.
then-
right?
and,
They went to jail because they hired some. They didn't kill them.
and the murderer also he has the he has the
So, but even the one who hired.
Unless he rolls over on the person who.
Oh, right, then they make a deal.
Yeah.
But by law, if you hire somebody, then, even though you didn't do it, you're
Yeah.
gonna go to jail, like you.
Yeah, the business is also not gonna. The business always has the back room for take care of these kind of people. And about the front room, so here it says because he's a groma. And the last case, somebody knows testimony, tells somebody out, but he didn't testify, which is avera. We're gonna see soon. There's a chiv that writes it to testify for somebody if you know the testimony for him, and somebody was over on that avera, so he's pater medina adam chayav b'dinei shemayim. That's Rabbi Yeshua. That's Rabbi Yeshua said the four things.
What did
Yes,
he?
please.
I didn't get the fourth case. I'm sorry.
That somebody knew testimony and he saw a car accident, whatever, he saw a gneva, he saw somebody steal, and he didn't testify in Besdin to say that he stole, so he lost out because he didn't get his money. He had no testimony, so he has to. He's chayiv medina shemayim. Medina adam is poter because he didn't actually damage him, but he caused the damage. That's a groma. So he's poter in Besdin, but he's chayiv medina shemayim. Dave Yaakov had a question once upon a time. Do you want to say a question? If you still remember what the question was, how it was said, what does it mean?
I'm not sure.
chayiv
What
medina shemayim?
about a hitman? Like what was what motion?
But I thought that the question he had one time with Yochavusa, I think, was, what does it mean chayiv b'din shemayim? When it's going to come to heaven, what are they going to say? I think this is the way he asked it. I'm not sure. Does it just mean that
he's
yes?
completely, or does it mean that he has to that he's what does it mean? Right, exactly.
Right. What does it mean chayiv b'din shemayim? Bezdin tells me about it, but it says chayiv b'din. What does chayiv b'din shemayim say? You want me to be a chassid? I'm not a chassid. It's like it's lefnim Yeshua said. What does it mean chayiv b'din shemayim? So I think Al Gemara is going to say openly that he has to pay. He has to pay. The Bezdin tells him when you come to Shemayim, they're going to have tinus why he didn't pay, and he's going to be punished because of it that he didn't pay. But there is going to be something we'll talk about a little further down the road. A couple of more lines. But it doesn't mean to me this chassidus. It doesn't mean that it's a lefnim Yeshua said. Then Bezdin tells him, we cannot make you pay, but you have to pay. In Shemayim, they consider you liable. You have to pay. But we'll see a little bit more. Maybe we'll fine-tune that definition a little bit.
They called it divine justice, right? That's what you said.
The divine justice that when they in the heavenly court, the heavenly court, he's obligated to pay. They don't say, hey, you didn't do a nice thing. They say you are mazakim and you have to pay. So even though the court cannot execute it, yes.
And the point is, he will be punished b'dei shemayim if he doesn't.
I think so. Yes, and we'll try to fine-tune it a little bit more as we go further. But I think definitely he's going to be punished if he doesn't pay. But Bezdin cannot tell him that he's chayiv to pay. Bezdin cannot execute it. Amamar. So now we're going to go on to these four things, and the Gemara has some questions about them. In some cases, he will be chayiv b'dinei adam. In some these four cases that the Gemara says, we would take these cases to be the chiddush is that even though he's part of the other, he's chayiv b'dinei shemayim. The Gemara has that some of these cases, in some instances, will even be chayiv b'dinei adam. Even the Bezdin will say that it's chayiv. This is the first case, the case of porates. Maybe make it a different color just to go. We'll go over it again. How does this happen over here? Yeah, porates. First one. Porates got and it says that he's pater b'dinei adam. What was the case that he took down the wall in front of an animal? The animal got lost. If it was a strong wall, a good wall, a strong wall. He should be chayiv even in Besdin. And the Gemara doesn't explain. Why should he be chayiv in Besdin? It was a good wall, a strong wall, and somebody broke down the wall, so he should be chayiv. The Pasha says he should be chayiv for the animal getting lost. That's what we're talking about. Rashi has a problem with this. He doesn't understand, I think, why should just because it's a strong wall, why should he be chayiv for the animal? So Rashi has a dochak l'chora that is chayiv for the wall. The Gemara is asking, should be chayiv for breaking the wall, which we say, of course, is not the subject. The subject is the animal, not the wall. So that's what Rashi learns. But other Rishonim learn no, that if it's a strong wall that wouldn't have fallen down, so then it's chayiv for the animal also, even though the is a groma. He knocked down the strong wall, and because of that, the animal went out. It should be a groma, it should be poter. So they say chayiv. For something, there's something called garmi. I'm not sure what the translation difference is between groma and garmi. But something is called more direct, even though it wasn't mamish direct. It wasn't but his hands, but it's still so close that it's already called enough of a direct hit even though it was not mamish direct, and the Garmi is yes chayiv.
Someone told me that about 5 or 6 sheets in Rishonim.
What Garmi is
That's
exactly?
different, yeah.
I don't
Very
know.
defined.
Okay, and it's very, very interesting that the Gemara asked it even as a kasha without explaining itself. Just says b'dina dunam l'chayiv. Rashi is saying it's called talking about the wall. So okay, that we understand. Of course, he was mazik the wall, but we don't understand Rashi because it's not the subject of the Gemara talking about the wall. We're talking about the animal. So just to point out, we hold, I think, like the other Rishon, not like Rashi, that is in the coastal bori, he'd be chayiv even for the animal getting damaged also. So that's the most kasha. So what kind of wall is it? Ella b'kosel re'ua. It must be that it's a weak wall. Okay, it's a weak wall. And by weak wall over there, we're going to say that then he's pater b'dinei adam, pater b'dinei adam. Still chai b'dinei shemayim, but he's pater b'dinei adam if the animal got lost because he broke down the weak wall. That's only called the grama. The next case, Amamar hakovev kamasa shel chaver. This was the second case. If somebody bent somebody else's wheat in front of a fire and it got burnt, so it's pater b'dinei shemayim and pater b'dinei adam. What was the case? If so, again, the Gemara doesn't explain itself. The Gemara is only a grammar, but the Gemara says if you put it into the path of the fire, that the fire is going to come with the ruach mitzuya. The regular wind is going to bring the fire to the place where you brought the wheat. So it should be chayv even b'dinei adam. And again, you have to ask why. If it's a grammar, it should be a grammar. So maybe the same thing. This is called too direct, so it's already called garmi. And think of that the Gemara says is yes chayiv. It is very, very strange that the Gemara doesn't even back itself up. Back itself, the Tnan, the Tanya, the Itmar, or something. The Gemara just says for sure you should be chayiv. Both the first case with the coastal bori, in this case with the ruach mitzuya of the fire, the Gemara says for sure you should be chayiv, and the Gemara doesn't even explain itself why it's so pashut. But that's the Gemara's kasha, and the answer is ela the mati b'ruach she'en mitzuya. That it came with a not regular wind, but if he wouldn't have bent the wheat in front of this path, then it wouldn't have gotten burned. And it's true, it's a ruach she'en mitzuya. It wasn't a regular, wasn't expected wind, but still it's a tiny. Why did he mess around? It's still as a fire is, and you're putting bread in the wheat. It might come in the ruach she'en mitzuya. Therefore, he's chayiv b'dinei shamayim. He's part of b'dinei adam because it's ruach she'en mitzuya, but he's chayiv b'dinei shamayim. Rav Ashi Omar, another answer to this kasha, Taman Itma. Yishum the Shavli Taman Beish. The case would be that the reason why he's not chayiv b'dinei sha'adam is that there was wheat. Not that kolfev doesn't mean that he just bent it into the path. Then, if it will be a ruach mitzuya, he'd be chayiv b'dinei adam. He wrapped it up. He wrapped it up in order, maybe even with a good intention. He thought he's going to wrap it up that it should be safe from the fire. But the Lamaisa, it got burnt. And now the one who made the fire was pater. The one who made the fire would have been chayiv because he burned somebody's wheat. But now that it was wrapped up, so we had once upon a time towards the beginning of the Masechta that Taman is pater, that Eish is only chayiv on the thing which is obvious, open, but galui. But if it's covered up, it's like someone had a wallet in a haystack, so he's pater on the wallet because it was Taman. Only if the wallet would have been open, then he'd be chayiv for burning it. But if it's tamun, if it's hidden, so then the fire is not chayiv. The ball of fire is not chayiv. So here too, the wheat was open; it would have been chayiv. The one who made the fire. But now that Levi came and he covered up Shimon's wheat, so now Ruvain is pater. So it's called a grama. He caused them a loss by making it tamun, and he's chayiv b'dinei shemayim. But the Gemara is happy at least that this case is considered pater b'dinei adam. It's not considered the ruach mitzuya case. It's more of an indirect fact that he made a tamun and now he's not going to have to pay. The next case also was a problem with that if somebody hired false witnesses, so the one who hired them is pater, even though he caused the loss, he caused the whole thing to happen because he was indirect. This is a pasha kasha. If he hired false witnesses to testify for him, so then of course he owes the money even without the whole story. He owes the money betzem, and he covered up in order to get a sheker that he shouldn't have to pay. Of course he has to pay because he owes the money before the whole story. He owes the money. He has to pay money, and even Bezler will make him pay. You're right. The case is that he testified to somebody else, so he only was mazik him indirectly. That's the way we learn Pashup Shah. And the last case, the sheker. I'm sorry. He knew testimony and he didn't testify. So the victim of whatever happened over there didn't have enough testimony to get his money. So that's called indirect being mazik. He didn't directly mazik him, but he held back from taking testimony indirectly. But my skin, here I want to just make a focus to learn what Levi Yaakov's question. But my skin, if it's two Adim that knew testimony, and If they would have testified, they would have gotten the money. Pshita, of course what? The Raisa, Im lo yagid v'nas avono. It's the issa the Raisa, not to say testimony, because if you had two Eidim and you could have gotten the money, it says the pasuk Im lo yagid v'nas avono. Let's try the pasuk, which would be side of Rashi. Yeah, we got it right. The nefesh ki sechta v'shamor kol Allah b'hu ra'ed o yada Im lo yagid v'nas avono. If somebody sinned because he heard an oath, he was adjured, he made an oath that he really was an aid, he did see, and he knew, and he didn't say the testimony, so he gets an avera. It's avera, it's one of the taryag, not to testify if he knows testimony. People don't like to testify. Why should I get messed in, get involved? But you have to. He's supposed to. Of course, Bezin protects him, and maybe he has to know if he's going to put in danger in life. He doesn't have to. But the difficulty, whatever he doesn't want to testify, it's a mitzvah the Raisi to testify. So the Gemara is asking, Pshita. Pshita what? Pshita, the Raisi, the Gemara L'chora means, I think, the Gemara means that he's chayv to pay. He's chayv b'din.
Well, why is it Pashto he's chayv to pay? Maybe he did Avera.
Right.
Who said I'm obligated to pay? It's Avera. It's Avera that I did the wrong thing after klap achet.
Right. So the Gemara is not asking he's chayv b'din adam. The Gemara is saying Pshita that he's chayv b'din shemayim. Now, from this thing, I want to get that what does it mean chayv b'din shemayim? This Lev Yaakov wanted to know what does it mean chayv b'din shemayim. Here, the Gemara seems to say that it's avera, and for sure he's going to get punished. So you surely see, I think, that it's not just not a nice thing to do. It means he really has to do it. There's a question that the poskim talk, that the Rishonim talk about. Does it mean chayv b'din shemayim means that he's really in Bezdin? It's not such a difference, I think. But chayv b'din shemayim means that Bezdin shemayim will say you're chayv to pay. You're chayv to pay. The other way to say is that you did an avera. That the chayv b'din shemayim means you did an avera. Avera is also punishable, even if it's not the money. In order to get out of the punishment of the avera, he did avera that he didn't testify. So because how could he get out of the avera that he didn't testify? He has to fix up what the problem was. So he has to pay. So surely it's not just a chumrah. It's not just a nice thing to do. Chayv b'din shemayim means you have to do it, and the Torah holds you responsible. Then shemayim, the Bezdin Shalmala, the heavenly court, is going to say responsible. The question might be in the Rishonim, what is the Bezdin going to say? That you chayv to pay, or the other side, you did an avera. It's also punishable. The way to get out of the avera is also by paying. There's a two nuschos that the Rishonim say either that he's chayv to pay or that he did an avera, and the avera. The way how do you do tshuva for an avera? You have to fix it up. The way to fix it up is to pay. So surely, I think as far as Lev Yaakov's question is, that's a nice thing. It's not a nice thing. It's a chiyuv mamish. What's the chiyuv? So yesh ladun. If the chiyuv is that in business Shalmala says you must pay, and the dayan can tell the person, I'm telling you potter, but really you're chayiv. You really chayiv. I can't enforce it. We can't enforce it, but you're chayiv to pay. The other way to say is that you did a big avera, and you're not chayiv to pay. You did a big avera, and how are you going to get out of the avera? You have to do tshuva. How do you do tshuva? You got to pay, or else you're going to get punished in shemayim because you did avera. So there are two nuschos in the Rishonim, but it doesn't make such a difference, I think, because he has to.
So go ahead.
Either way, on this world, you got to pay, or else you're going to get up there.
Right.
No, and let's say you have a way to do tshuva on the avera
without how do you do that?
I don't know. Let's say you take the Chazal literally that Mavel.
If he does those kind of cheshbonos, that's not going to be on the list. When he gets a p'tur of Mavel Midosav, it's not going to help him for this one that he could have paid and didn't pay. Maybe in a case where he couldn't pay. Let's say a case where he couldn't pay. But if he's a chayv to pay, so Imam is chayv to pay and he didn't pay. But if he has to do tshuva, the best tshuva he can do. Maybe
right, he doesn't have money. He doesn't have money. So if he does tshuva, so
maybe. Okay, Adkan. Put this back into the blue again, into our regular color. Which one is the regular blue? I don't see regular blue. Maybe this one. Okay. Fine. So, period. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't finish the answer. So the Gemara's kasha was stuff there two Eidim that didn't testify, so then Mamash Chayv B'dinei, it's not Pshita. It's not Chayv B'din Adam, but it's Chayv B'dinei Shemaim for sure. The answer is B'chad. B'chad means there's only one Eid, and even if he would have testified, he wouldn't have gotten money. The most he could do is to make a shvur. And the chiddush is that he has to pay b'dinei shemayim the money because he caused them a loss. Because he would not have sworn.
Right.
If he said, I could testify that you owe money, and he's going to say no, but he says, I'm an eidachad. The eidachad has to make you swear, so he is going to pay. So therefore, he caused the loss to the victim, and he has to pay him the money b'dinei shemayim. So the Gemara is happy. The Gemara found, but the Yisod is again. The Yisod is that the Grama is butter. If he on the indirect damage is butter within a bezdin, within a adam, but within a shemaim he does have to pay. The Gemara's kasha was that some cases you can even have chay within a adam. Or three kashas was chay within a adam. The one kasha was about pshita, and we answer all the kashas. In certain cases, it'll be chiddush, and it'll be butter within a adam, and it's chay within a shemaim.
He's not supposed to think the guy going to do it. My job is I got to testify. That's it. If the guy is going to make the sure and lie or whatever, if that's his problem. I got to.
Right, but usually, let's say not by money issues. That's the point. A side note: if someone has testimony about somebody, but it's not relative, that's not going to be relevant to paying, to making a shvua either, then he's not supposed to go to bezdin, because that's the famous Gemara Tuvya Chatav Zigud Mingid, that somebody came in Eid to bezdin against Tuvya. Tuvya was Mazana. Zigud, that was his name. Zigud came to Bezin and said that Tuvia was Mazana. So the Dan gave him Malchus to Tuvia.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, to Zigud, to the one who came to say the testimony. He gave Malchus to the aid.
Yeah.
He said, "You're only an Eid Echad,
Right.
and we can't trust you. You're only an Eid Echad. It's not relevant to any money. No money over there. The question only was if he was Mazana or not. But your testimony is worthless.
Right.
So he gave Malchus. You stop saying lashon hara. Because he had no business to tell him.
Wow. And that's the true story.
That's a story. So if it's necessary to somehow the business should take care of something, and he could prove whatever he said. But if he can't prove it, then he's just making a bad name for him. So we can't trust you. And only an Eid Echad. If it has to do with money, then it's shvua. Then Eid Echad could be mechayiv shvua. But in other matters, like znus,
if he comes and says, "Hey, there's maybe somebody else," will also
maybe
come
somebody
in.
else. Maybe somebody else. So yeah,
Okay, I also saw it.
yeah, but the case would be that if he did it's no, it's not like it was in the street,
Right.
like somebody else was watching. He knows that the case where he saw it, it was only him. So what's going to be what the aid is? But of course, he should go to somebody that should take care of the issue, whatever the kind is. If you have to take care of it, we're not saying that everybody should keep it quiet. But in the case where it's not going to be worth anything, so he's not supposed to start making a bad name for him.
So a kid gets.
Of course, you have to tell. Of course, you have to.
Right. Even one kid.
You have to get. They have to, because then they can check it out. They should be able to check it out. The case is that it should be worth something.
Right.
Okay, that was a side point. Not more as many conscious now. The sulaka. This is going to be a series of conscious. It's a new sugya. It's going under four things. Rabbi Yeshua said that there are four things. That's part of the Shamayim. And in essence, it's only one point. That grama. It's the cases of grama. 4 cases of grama. So the Gemara says cases of grama. There are many cases of grama. Why did you only pick 4 cases? Abod Dvorim, 4 cases. And the Gemara is going to ask. There are many cases, and there's going to be all. We could think of our own cases of grama, but that's not a kasha. But they're going to be Mishnayos and Brises that say cases that grama is part of the Shamayim. So why did Rabbi Yeshua say there are only 4? That's the next kasha now. V'sulaka. This is going to be the series of kashas. V'sulaka. There are no more cases of grama. That's part of the Medina Shamayim. Va'ika, first one. This is going to be Osem Malacha b'meichatas of Uparas Chatas. This is going to be get the other one, the other highlighter over here. This one, let's say the first case. Somebody damaged only with a grama. It's going a little slow today. Somebody worked with the water of the paraduma, or with the ashes of the paraduma, in a way that he made it paraduma puzzle. So it's called hezek shein and nikkur. So he must have made a lot of money, but hezek shein, you look at it, you don't see any difference. That's hezek shein and nikkur, and he's going that you potter. And the Gemara is saying, because he still calls them a loss. So he has to pay Medina Shemaim. Another case, if somebody put poison by somebody else's animal, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that if he put food, that was machlokis, that maybe he was expected to eat it, so maybe he's going to be more chayiv even than the other. But if he put something which is not usually eaten, the animal usually wouldn't eat it, so then he's part of Medina Adam, but still chayiv Medina Shemaim. It's also called the grama. What's doing over here? And the next case, if somebody sent a fire with a chereshot of a katan, so he's over there. The case is it's different than sending a shore and a bore, because the Gemara said that it's not considered that he directly damaged, and it was a little bit shamor, and the chereshot of a katan that did it, it's indirectly that he messed it up. He took the fire, made a fire out of it. So like giving matches to a kid or something like that, that it'll be a grama that if he makes a fire. So all because of groma. The one who gave the opportunity to the Cheshot of Kata to make a fire is groma. Another case, Amav says Chaveru. Somebody scared his fellow man, and he became deaf over there because of the fright, but he didn't do it directly. That's called also groma. Another case, Nishbur Kado, below Beshus Rabim, below Silka, or Naflagam below Amida, that somebody's jug broke in Beshus Rabim and he didn't take away the pieces, or his camel fell and he didn't take it away. So that's a question over there. We have two sukkahs over there, Rabbi Yehuda, and one question is about is it called Apshia, Nitkal Poshea? Somebody trips and he falls. Is that considered Apshia or not? Machlokis or Meir says yes, Rabbi Yehuda says not. And also Mafkin is Zakav Lachan Nefilas Shia. Lachan Nefilas Onus, I think. Mafkin is Zakav Lachan Nefilas Onus is a Machlokis also Fischayim, that he fell bonus, but then he had something that belonged to him, so he should have to pick it up. But he's mafkirid. Is that enough to be poter v'chayiv? So Abiyudah says poter in both those cases, but the Meir says chayiv. But Meir b'chayiv v'zekan, and even the chachamim that say poter, Abiyudah says poter because niskal la posheya, and the mafkin the zakav lach and the filas onus is poter, but poter b'dinad b'chayiv b'din shemayim. So we have all these cases over here. That's many kashas over here. How many we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 kashas the Gemara asks that why do only pick 4 cases? If sure says 4 cases, I found 4 cases. Aporates, get there b'fnei bemes chavero, and what else did we have? And top of the page here, and a kofif kamosa b'fnei kamas chavero, and a soche the sheker, and a edus chaver bein amelo. He found 4 cases. There are another 5 cases, and probably more also at least. But these are the mishnayos of Brises that it has cases of groma. And also it says each time, so why do you only pick these 4? So the Gemara says, you're right. Yes, chidushim over here. In till here was the Gemara's kasha, and here goes the Gemara's teretz. In, you're right. Mia ika tuba. There are many cases. Here they are chidushim. The chidushim are all going to be that maybe you'd even think that he's pater legamri, even though groma is usually pater mediradim mechabedin shemayim. Before the Gemara had problems on top of the page that some of these cases, in certain instances, they'll even be chayiv within other. Here the Gemara is going that other direction. But you might think that these cases are even pater medina shemayim. You might think that it's so pater that it's even pater medina shemayim. That was his chiddush. The fact that a groma is chayiv medina shemayim, pater chayiv medina, that's not the chiddush. The chiddush was that these particular ones are chayiv medina shemayim. You might think that the pater legamri. The Gemara is going to say each one. Now it goes to each one of them. The first case that we said he broke the fence and somebody else's animal, and the person's animal went out and got lost. So he's chayiv v'din shemayim. You might think that. Since anyway the wall said on top of the page is talking about a weak wall. If it's a weak wall, what's the bottom of the page over there? What was it? The top of the page? Yeah, the top word. We came out of it. That's talking about a weak wall. Since it's a weak wall, the wall would have fallen by itself also. So even though the animal got out because I took it down, it would have gotten the wall would have fallen down. The animal would have got lost anyway. So you might think that I'm poter even within the shemayim. And therefore within the shemayim you might think since it's only to be taken down. So what did he do? And even within the shemayim he should be poter. Kamash malan that he's chayiv because who says it would have got lost? The animal would have taken away the animal before it fell down. So he is chayiv within the shemayim. Second case, a kofef. There's a reason why you might even think he's part of the Dinei Shamayim. The one I took shot before that the most kasha was that a regular case would be Ruach Mitzuya, then it should be Chayv B'Dinei Adam. So it's still one Ruach Sheni Mitzuya. Ruach Sheni Mitzuya, you can say I didn't expect it at all, and I should even be part of the Gamri. I was Kofet Kamos. I did bend the wheat into the path of the fire, but only Ruach Sheni Mitzuya is going to bring it. I didn't have to think about that, and it should be part of even B'Dinei Shamayim. Or according to Rashi had a different shot over there. Rashi said that he made a tamon. That the case was that there was wheat that was in the path of the fire, but he wrapped it up in a way that he made the one who made the fire is poter because poter on tamon. So he indirectly caused them a damage. So he's chayiv b'dinei shemayim. And you might think not. Well, Rashi nami tamanami tamanitma amaru tema no kisui kisite nehalach. I did you a favor. I covered it up. Or at least he thought he did a favor, and he thought he more protected. I shouldn't get burnt in the first place. But the Maisa got burnt, and now became Toman, and he's poter, and the Mazik doesn't have to pay. You might think he doesn't have to pay. Kamashman he does because the Maisa caused a damage that Mazik doesn't have to pay. And the third case, Hasocher, that somebody hired false witnesses. You might think that it's part of the gamma, even with Dina Shemayim. He could say that they shouldn't have listened to me. I paid them, but they shouldn't have listened to me. Like if the Rebbe says something and the Talmud says something, who you listen to? You listen to the Rebbe. So Hashem said, don't say false witness. And I said, yes, they were a false witness. So you shouldn't have listened to me. And it's all your fault. It's all the fault of the false witnesses. And therefore you should be part of the Gamri. V'dina Shemaim, he should be part even V'dina Shemaim, Kamash Malon, that he is Chayiv V'dina Shemaim. And the last case, Hayadeh Edus L'Chavero, Ve'eino Me'ed Lo Ma'nami Ma'oletem, Miyema Dechi Haba B'Sahidna Lei. And the Moda, Tilma Haba Mishtabel L'Shikro, V'dina Shemaim L'Chayiv. Thank you. Who says that if I would have testified, Amal Yanei Dachad, who said that he would have been scared and paid? He would have even said a false witness, so a false testimony. So I don't have to pay. Kamash Malan, then he does have to pay. So that's the end of the sugya. Stop here. Pretty much. Okay. Stop here. Fridays we try to stop on time.
Yes, a car. Yes,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Tomorrow, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, Bez Hashem.
Okay.
Thank you.